What if I told you that one of the greatest military strategists in human history was also one of the most brilliant financial thinkers ever? Yet almost nobody talks about it, because when people hear the name Sun Tzu, they think of war, armies, and battlefields. But hidden inside the art of war is a financial philosophy so sharp, so modern, that it explains how nations win without fighting, how elites grow rich without appearing powerful, and how ordinary people unknowingly play a losing game every single day. And today, on Finance, TED Official, we are uncovering the financial genius of Sun Tzu, not the version taught in classrooms or quoted on motivational posters, but the real version. The one that quietly explains markets, money, power, and why some people always seem to win while others keep struggling no matter how hard they work. Because Sun Tzu never wrote about swords and blood. He wrote about resources, timing, psychology, and efficiency. And those are the same forces that control modern economies. And to understand this, we need to start with a shocking truth. Sun Tzu believed that the best war is the one that never happens. And financially, this idea is devastating because war is expensive. It's destructive and unpredictable, just like reckless spending, bad investments, and emotional financial decisions. And Sun Tzu taught that the greatest victory is achieved before the battle begins, which in money terms means the real winners prepare quietly, position themselves early, and let others exhaust themselves chasing short-term gains. Because one of Sun Tzu's core principles was that prolonged war destroys even the victor. And if you think about modern life, this perfectly describes long-term debt, endless consumption, and financial stress. Because people are locked into economic wars they can't win, fighting rising prices with stagnant wages, borrowing to survive, and calling it normal, while Sun Tzu would call it strategic failure, because he believed resources are finite and must be preserved. And here's the first financial lesson no one talks about. Sun Tzu valued efficiency over intensity, meaning winning is not about working harder, it's about positioning smarter. And in modern finance, this explains why some people work fewer hours, yet accumulate more wealth. Because they understand leverage, systems, and timing, while others trade time for money until they burn out. And Sun Tzu warned that commanders who exhaust their armies lose authority, just as financial systems that exhaust their citizens lose stability. And this is where the story becomes uncomfortable. Because governments and institutions often operate in direct opposition to Sun Tzu's wisdom, encouraging endless growth, endless consumption, and endless debt, because exhausted people are easier to control. And that leads us to Sun Tzu's second hidden financial insight: control perception before controlling resources. Because Sun Tzu famously said that all warfare is based on deception, and financially this is everywhere. Markets move not just on numbers, but on narratives, fear, confidence, and belief, inflation expectations, consumer sentiment, investor psychology. And Sun Tzu understood, centuries ago, that if you control what people believe, you control how they act. And modern finance runs on this principle, from advertising to market bubbles, from panic selling to speculative manias. Because people don't buy assets, they buy stories. And those who understand this sell at the top, while others buy out of fear of missing out. And here's the emotional twist. Sun Tzu warned leaders never to believe their own propaganda, yet many individuals do exactly that with money. Believing they are doing fine because everyone else is struggling too, or believing debt is normal because it's common. And Sun Tzu would see this as self-deception, the most dangerous form of all. Because once you believe the illusion, you stop preparing for reality. And then comes Sun Tzu's most overlooked financial principle: know yourself and know the enemy, because he said if you know both, you need not fear the outcome of 100 battles. And financially, this means understanding your own behavior, weaknesses and impulses, just as much as understanding the system you operate in, because most people study markets, but never study themselves. They don't know how fear affects their decisions, how ego pushes them to overspend, how impatience causes bad investments. And Sun Tzu would argue that without self-knowledge, financial tools become weapons used against you. And this is why financial education alone is not enough. Because strategy without discipline still leads to defeat, and Sun Tzu emphasized discipline relentlessly. Armies that lacked discipline collapsed regardless of size, and the same applies to money. Income means nothing without control. Opportunity means nothing without patience, and this explains why sudden wealth often destroys people. Lottery winners, athletes, influencers, because they gain resources without strategy. And Sun Tzu warned that unearned advantage creates chaos, it's not stability. And now here's where Sun Tzu's genius becomes almost prophetic. He believed the best generals attack strategy, not soldiers. Meaning they undermine the enemy's plans before conflict begins. And financially, this is exactly how powerful institutions operate. They shape rules, incentives, and systems long before individuals ever participate. Tax structures, interest rates, access to credit, education gaps, and when you enter the game, the outcome is already tilted. And Sun Tzu would never blame the soldier for losing a war designed to be unwinnable. He would blame leadership. And that insight alone should change how you view your own financial struggles. Because maybe you are not bad with money. Maybe you are playing by rules designed for someone else to win. And this leads to Sun Tzu's most humane lesson: preserve your people. Because he believed the true cost of war is not money or territory, it is human exhaustion, it's morale, and loss of purpose. And modern economies ignore this completely, burning people out in the name of productivity, calling stress ambition, calling survival success, and Sun Tzu would see this as strategic decay. Because a system that consumes its people eventually consumes itself. And here's where the story turns empowering. Because Sun Tzu also taught adaptability above all else, rigid strategies fail, flexible ones survive. Meaning financial survival today requires adaptability, multiple skills, diversified income, emotional resilience, and the ability to change direction without shame. And Sun Tzu admired water because it adapts to any terrain, flows around obstacles, and never fights strength with strength. And financially, this means stop fighting the system head-on and start flowing around it. Reduce unnecessary battles, avoid ego spending, invest in learning. Preserve energy, and choose long-term positioning over short-term wins. And this is the part nobody tells you. Sun Tzu's ultimate goal was peace, not conquest, stability, not domination, and financially that translates to freedom. Not excess enough, not endless accumulation, because true victory is when you no longer need to fight, when money serves you instead of controlling you. And now, here's the cliffhanger that makes Sun Tzu more relevant today than ever. As AI, automation, digital currencies, and centralized systems reshape the global economy, the financial battlefield is changing faster than most people realize. And those who rely on old tactics will struggle, but those who understand strategy, psychology, and adaptability will quietly position themselves for the future. And the real question is not whether Sun Tzu's ideas still apply, but whether you will recognize the battlefield before the battle begins. Because as Sun Tzu warned centuries ago, opportunities multiply as they are seized, and disasters multiply as they are ignored.
You're at best.
So if this story changed how you see money, power, and strategy, comment below with the word strategy, like this video to help others escape financial confusion, and subscribe to Finance TED Official, because understanding money is not about luck, it's about strategy. And strategy decides who wins long before the fight begins.